Welcome to the How to Clean Your Vacuum. Like a pro. No more stinky smell.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to digging into this one today.
Yeah, me too. Because, right now, sitting in your hallway closet or wherever you keep it is this appliance you completely trust.
Right.
You trust it to keep your family healthy and your living space pristine.
Oh, absolutely. We just blindly trust it.
Right. But there is a very high statistical probability that every single time you turn it on, you're actually aerosolizing this microscopic layer of rotting food particles, dead skin cells, pet dander, and like dormant mold spores. And it's blasting directly into the air you breathe.
It's pretty horrifying when you actually stop and think about it.
It really is. So we're looking at this incredibly satisfying practical walkthrough for the YouTube channel, Clean That Up. And our mission for this deep dive is to basically rescue your most essential household cleaning tool from the brink of absolute grossness. We want to banish that lingering odor that's, secretly haunting your living room.
Yeah, and it's the ultimate paradox of the modern home, really. We rely on this specific piece of engineering to protect our environment from allergens and physical debris.
Right.
Yet, because the dirt sort of just disappears inside a plastic cylinder or a bag, it's like out of sight truly becomes out of mind. We systematically ignored the mechanical health and the biological hygiene of the machine itself.
I'm completely guilty of this.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing worse than pulling the vacuum out, hitting the power button with the best of intentions, and instantly getting hit in the face with this wave of hot, dusty, dog-smelling air.
Ugh, yes. The dreaded vacuum smell.
Or, you're pushing the roller over the exact same piece of carpet fuzz like 5 times.
Yeah.
And it just flat out refuses to pick it up. The tool designed to erase the mess becomes the primary distributor of it.
Exactly. And to understand why that happens, we have to fundamentally reframe what a vacuum cleaner actually is. Because people tend to treat them like these magical disintegration boxes where dirt enters and just ceases to exist.
Like a black hole for Cheerios and dog hair.
Right. Exactly. But what's fascinating here is the basic physics of the system. A vacuum doesn't actually suck dirt up, at least not in the way we picture it. It creates a low-pressure void using a motorized impeller.
Okay.
And atmospheric pressure then rushes in to fill that void, and it carries the loose debris with it. That means a vacuum is, at its core, a high-volume air circulation machine. The exact volume of air it pulls in through the floor nozzle has to be exhausted out the back.
Wait, so whatever goes in, a comparable amount of air is getting blown right back into the room.
Yes, exactly. So if you are pulling air through a hose lined with decaying organic matter and forcing it through a filter choked with microscopic grime, you are quite literally taking the clean ambient air in your living room, forcing it through a concentrated tunnel of filth, and blowing it back into your face.
Oh, wow. So if I'm understanding the physics here, turning on a neglected vacuum is basically the equivalent of trying to wash your clothes in a tub of muddy water.
That is a highly accurate analogy. Yeah.
Like, you're going through the mechanical motions of cleaning, you're putting in the physical labor, but because the medium you're using, in this case the airflow, is already profoundly compromised, you're actually just spreading the contamination over a much wider surface area.
You're weaponizing the grime. You're taking heavy particulate matter that was peacefully settled on your rug, just, held in place by gravity, and you're using mechanical force to launch it into the breathable atmosphere of your home.
That is deeply unsettling.
It is. And this is precisely why the maintenance protocols outlined in the Clean That Up source material are so critical. We aren't just talking about making a machine look pretty. We're talking about transitioning from passively using a tool to actively managing an airflow system.
Right. So let's break down exactly how we manage that system, because the source material doesn't just tell you to wipe the exterior with a paper towel. It advocates for a total mechanical deconstruction.
Yeah, a full teardown.
Yeah.
Because we are dealing with 3 distinct enemies here: airflow bottlenecks, mechanical friction, and biological traps.
Right. And to fight them, we have to strip the machine down. So the host of the video, who happens to be working on a standard Hoover, though I'm guessing the structural principles apply universally to Dysons, Sharks, Bissells, you name it, he starts by removing the canister and every single accessory that easily unclips.
Standard stuff, yeah.
But the real shock comes when he disconnects the main flexible hose.
Oh man, the visual evidence in the video is striking. When you remove a component that is normally hidden from view like that, the reality of what you've been dragging around your house becomes undeniable.
He holds up this heavily used gray, grimy hose right next to a brand new factory replacement. And the contrast, Honestly makes you want to immediately go wash your hands.
It's rough.
The inside of the used hose isn't just dusty, it's heavily lined with this thick, almost paste-like layer of dark grime. He genuinely warns the viewer to brace themselves before looking down the barrel of it.
And that paste-like consistency is a really crucial detail. We intuitively think of vacuuming as a dry process, right? Just picking up loose sand and dust.
Right, like sweeping but with suction.
Exactly. But in reality, household dust is highly complex. It's a combination of keratin from human and animal skin cells, microscopic food crumbs trapped in soil, and most importantly, aerosolized cooking oils and ambient humidity.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Cooking oils in the vacuum hose.
Yep. When those dry particulates mix with oils and moisture inside the corrugated, uneven ridges of a plastic hose, they form a lipid-bound matrix. It's essentially a biofilm.
A biofilm. That sounds like something from a sci-fi horror movie.
It basically is.
Yeah.
And as that organic matter sits in the dark, slightly warm environment of the closet, it begins to slowly decompose. That localized decomposition is the exact source of that hot, stinky smell you encounter when you turn the machine on.
Ugh, so it's an active science experiment gestating in the utility closet.
Ex-
Which brings us to one of the most compelling concepts in the entire walkthrough. Here's where it gets really interesting. When faced with a hose full of decaying biofilm and a canister caked in dust, the natural human instinct is to grab a second cleaning tool to deal with it. The video's host calls this the infinity loop of dust.
Yes. It's a phenomenal observation regarding the inefficiency of how we clean our cleaning tools. It touches on basic thermodynamics, really. You're just moving entropy from one closed system to another.
I have to admit, I completely fell for this trap while watching the breakdown. I was sitting there thinking, why am I looking at a bucket of soapy water? Just grab a shop vac or a handheld dustbuster and suck all the loose dirt out of the big vacuum.
It feels like the most logical, time-saving solution possible, doesn't it?
It totally does. So why is using a second vacuum a terrible strategy?
Well, if you consider the airflow physics we just established, the structural flaw in that logic becomes immediately apparent. If you use vacuum B to extract the densely concentrated debris out of vacuum A, you haven't actually eliminated the dirt from your home's ecosystem.
Oh, right. You've just eaten it with the other machine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've simply transferred a massive, highly concentrated biological load into the filtration system of vacuum B. So now vacuum B's HEPA filter is entirely choked, its motor is straining, and its hose is coated in that same lipid matrix.
So now vacuum B is ruined.
Right, so vacuum B now requires a deep teardown. Do you then bring out vacuum C? Or do you try to use vacuum A, which you just cleaned, to clean vacuum B? It's a zero-sum game. You are engaged in a perpetual cycle of transferring dirt between machines without ever physically removing the contaminants from your property.
The infinity loop. You're just playing an exhausting game of musical chairs with dead skin cells.
That's exactly what it is.
So the solution the video provides to break this loop is incredibly elegant in its simplicity.
Yeah.
You completely remove the operation from the indoor environment. You don't try to manage this level of particulate matter in your living room or even over your kitchen sink. You take the entire disassembled machine outside to the yard.
Which is the only mathematically sound way to break the cycle. I mean, once you unseal the primary dust canister and expose the internal HEPA filters, containment is completely lost.
Because it's all just loose at that point.
Right. Attempting to manage that indoors guarantees that microscopic particles will simply float through the air currents of your home and resettle on your furniture, which basically forces you to dust your entire house an hour later.
Nobody wants that.
By moving the process outdoors, you utilize the infinite volume of the exterior atmosphere to dilute and disperse the particulate matter.
Right, so he takes the canister outside,
Yeah.
dumps the heavy debris into a trash bag, and uses a stiff bristled brush to knock away the loose dirt. But then he takes it a step further, which I loved. He brings out a high-powered electric leaf blower and just blasts the remaining dust out of the canister and the pleated filters.
Oh, that part is so satisfying.
It really is. You see this massive cloud of gray matter just completely vaporize into the yard.
It's a brilliant application of fluid dynamics, honestly. A vacuum cleaner relies on low-volume, high-velocity suction. But a leaf blower operates on the exact opposite principle: high-volume, high-velocity air displacement.
Oh, so it's pushing a massive wall of air instead of pulling a tiny stream.
Exactly. By hitting the densely pleated material of the filter with a massive uncontained volume of moving air, you force the microscopic particulate matter out of those tiny crevices where suction alone could never reach. And because you are outside, you don't have to worry about the collateral damage of a dust cloud. You are using the open environment to completely obliterate the physical accumulation of dirt.
So the dry dust is blasted away, and the infinity loop is officially broken. We've managed the loose debris. Now we have to address that sticky, decomposing biofilm you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the gross stuff.
Which means transitioning from dry brushing to wet washing. But right before the host starts dropping plastic parts into soapy water, he pauses to clean a component that I have literally never once considered cleaning in my entire adult life. The power cord.
Oh, the cord. It's the most abused and neglected appendage of the appliance.
Truly.
I mean, we unspool 20 feet of it, drag it across hardwood floors, pull it over metal thresholds, wrap it tightly around corners, step on it, and retract it back into the machine. Yet we treat it as if it's immune to the environment it operates in.
You're so focused on the rotating brush hitting the carpet that you completely forget the cord is sliding through the exact same mess, just a few feet behind it.
Exactly.
So the walkthrough demonstrates a hyper-efficient method for dealing with this. The host sprays an all-purpose household cleaner directly onto a clean microfiber towel. He explicitly notes not to spray the liquid onto the cord itself, which makes perfect sense considering it plugs into a wall outlet.
Yes, safety first. Water and electricity do not mix.
Definitely. So he grips the base of the cord with the damp towel, and as he slowly coils the slack back up, he pulls the cord through the microfiber cloth. And the black streak left on that brightly colored towel is just shocking.
Beyond the sheer aesthetic improvement, there's a vital chemical and safety reason for doing this too. The casing of that power cord is typically made of a flexible polyvinyl chloride, or PVC.
Okay.
And that PVC contains plasticizers to keep it pliable. As that cord drags across your kitchen floor, it picks up ambient cooking oils, cleaning chemical residues, and microscopic grit.
Just absorbing all that floor grime.
Over time, yeah.
Yeah.
Those floor oils react chemically with the rubberized casing. It accelerates the degradation of the plasticizers. If you've ever seen an old vacuum cord that has become stiff, brittle, or started to crack and expose the internal wiring.
Oh, I've definitely had cords crack like that.
Right, well, it's not just from age, it's from the oxidative stress of being coated in a layer of environmental grime. Wiping it down neutralizes those chemical agents and preserves the structural integrity of the cord.
Wow, so it's a perfect example of how a 5-second habit completely changes the lifespan of the tool.
Absolutely.
And hey, if you're finding these insights into preserving the health of your home as fascinating as I am, you need to make sure your actual floors are getting the exact same level of elite care. If you want to elevate your home maintenance, be sure to visit Kind Deck Carpet Cleaning on Google for your ultimate floor care needs. Because once your vacuum is performing at absolute peak efficiency, you want the carpets it's cleaning to look absolutely immaculate.
I couldn't agree more. Professional deep cleaning paired with proper daily maintenance is the only way to genuinely extend the life of high-traffic flooring.
Let's turn our attention back to the washing phase, because the video sets up a very specific protocol for breaking down the grimy buildup. The host creates a washing station using warm water and a quick squirt of Dawn dish soap. And he emphasizes a highly specific geometrical detail.
How the container shape.
Yes, he insists on using an oblong container like an underbed storage tub rather than a standard round bucket.
The geometry of the washing vessel is surprisingly critical here. Vacuum components like the extension wands, the crevice tools, the flexible hoses are inherently long and awkwardly shaped.
Right, they're like these rigid plastic tubes.
Exactly. So if you attempt to submerge a 3-foot rigid plastic wand in a standard 5-gallon circular bucket, half of the component remains exposed to the air. An oblong container provides the necessary horizontal clearance to completely submerge these specialized tools, allowing the warm, soapy water to fully penetrate the interior curves and ridges simultaneously.
Makes total sense. So he gets this warm bath prepped, and he starts tossing the fully plastic, heavily soiled parts in to soak. But right here, the video establishes a massive, non-negotiable hard boundary. Not every part gets to go in the pool.
Yeah, and this is the juncture where an amateur mistake will permanently destroy the appliance. Understanding what not to wash is far more critical than knowing how to wash the safe components.
The video specifically flags the rotating roller brush, the heavy cylinder with the bristles that physically beats the carpet. and the small plastic wheel trays that support the base of the vacuum. He states in no uncertain terms that you must never submerge these parts in water.
And never.
Now I have to push back here for a second. Vacuums are literally built to clean up the floors in our mudrooms. We drag them over damp entryway rugs where we've left wet winter boots. Shouldn't the components that touch the floor be completely sealed and waterproof? Why is dropping the roller brush in a tub of soapy water a death sentence for the machine?
It's a fair question, but it comes down to the microscopic metallurgy of the appliance. Vacuum rollers spin at incredibly high revolutions per minute, often upwards of 3,000 to 4,000 RPMs.
That is incredibly fast.
It is. And to achieve that speed without generating enough friction to melt the surrounding plastic casing, the ends of the roller brush and the axles of the small wheels are mounted on metal ball bearings. These bearings consist of tiny steel balls encased within an inner and outer metal ring, and they're packed with a highly specific industrial grease for lubrication.
Okay, so there's exposed metal in there.
Exactly. While a vacuum is designed to handle a damp surface on the exterior, those bearing casings are rarely hermetically sealed against total water submersion.
So the soapy water breaches the casing. What's the chemical reaction that ruins the tool?
When you drop that roller into a tub, the soapy water, which has deeply penetrative properties due to the dish soap, seeps right past the dust shields of the bearing. The water chemically displaces the protective grease.
Oh, because dish soap is literally designed to break down grease.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because the bearing is tucked away inside a tight plastic housing, that water cannot evaporate quickly. You now have raw steel, oxygen, and trapped water sitting in a dark, enclosed space. Iron oxide rust begins to form almost immediately. When rust forms, the metal actually expands in pits. So the next time you power on the vacuum, those tiny steel balls will seize against the rusted rings. The roller will jam. The electric motor will continue trying to force the belt to turn a jammed roller, which will either instantly snap the rubber drive belt, or worse, cause the motor to thermally overload and burn itself out.
Wow.
You will have catastrophically killed your vacuum in the pursuit of keeping it clean.
That is a terrifying chain of events caused by a seemingly innocent cup of water. So, to avoid an electrical fire and a ruined machine, how are we supposed to clean the roller brush and the wheel trays if they can't take a bath?
You transition from total submersion to precision detailing. The video demonstrates using a lightly dampened microfiber cloth damp, not dripping.
Right.
You apply a mild cleaning solution to the cloth itself and manually wipe down the plastic and bristles of the roller brush, meticulously avoiding the metal bearing enclosures at the end caps. It requires more manual labor, but it entirely isolates the vulnerable mechanics from moisture.
It's all about respecting the engineering of the tool. And sometimes you encounter engineering that is just inexplicably coated in filth. The main plastic dirt canister is a prime example.
Oh yeah, that clear plastic always gets so cloudy.
The video shows that even after the loose dust is blown out, the interior walls are coated in a stubborn, cloudy, greasy film. Normal soapy water isn't shifting it. So the host pulls out a specialized product, Dawn Power Wash. He sprays the interior, lets it sit, and the film just melts away.
That's a perfect application of specialized chemistry. The issue with standard dish soap and water is that it runs off vertical surfaces too quickly to be effective on heavy buildup.
It just pools at the bottom of the canister.
Right. A product like Dawn Power Wash is formulated with alcohol-based solvents and specific foaming agents. The foam allows the chemical to cling to the vertical interior walls of the plastic canister, increasing the dwell time.
Dwell time.
Yeah, the amount of time the cleaner actually sits on the dirt. During that dwell time, the surfactant molecules go to work. The hydrophobic tail of the surfactant molecule aggressively binds to the lipids, the grease and oils, while the hydrophilic head remains attached to the water in the foam.
So it's actively pulling the grease apart.
Exactly. When you finally rinse the canister, the water pulls the surfactant away, and the surfactant physically rips the bonded grease off the plastic surface. It provides maximum chemical cleaning power with zero mechanical scrubbing required.
It's chemical warfare on biofilms. While the safe, purely plastic components are marinating in their soapy bath, which, by the way, the video cuts to later, and the water has turned into a completely opaque, black, murky soup, proving exactly how necessary this process is, the host pivots to battle mechanical friction. We are moving from chemical cleaning to structural problem solving.
And this is where most users experience the highest level of daily frustration with their appliance.
Without a doubt, the single most infuriating part of vacuum maintenance is the roller brush. No matter what brand you own, it inevitably becomes a hostage to tightly wrapped human hair, pet fur and loose carpet threads.
It's unavoidable.
For years, my standard operating procedure has been to grab a pair of kitchen scissors, jam the bottom blade into the hair, and hack away blindly until the roller is somewhat visible again. But the video introduces a completely different tool hack. The host explicitly advises against scissors and instead uses a sewing seam ripper to cut the hair free.
It's an incredibly astute observation regarding the geometry of the tools we use. It replaces blunt force with surgical precision.
I have to admit, when he first pulled out the seam ripper, I was skeptical. I thought, why are we rating a sewing kit for a heavy-duty household appliance? Scissors cut things perfectly fine.
Yeah.
What is the mechanical advantage of a tiny sewing tool over a heavy pair of shears?
To understand the advantage, you have to visualize the physics of how hair wraps around a moving cylinder. Imagine a Chinese finger trap. As the roller spins at thousands of RPMs, it pulls the hair or thread tighter and tighter against the core of the cylinder, nesting it deeply beneath the surface of the stiff bristles.
Okay, so it's under an immense amount of tension.
Exactly. The tension is immense. When you attempt to use standard scissors, you're dealing with a fundamentally flawed tool for the job. Scissor blades are thick and bulky. To make a cut, you have to forcefully wedge that thick bottom blade underneath a high-tension mass of hair.
Which is really hard to do without stabbing the plastic.
Right, because the blade is thick and the hair is tight, you end up gouging the plastic core of the roller, or far more commonly, you inadvertently snip off chunks of the actual nylon bristles, permanently ruining the sweeping efficacy of the brush.
I have absolutely given my vacuum an accidental choppy haircut because the scissors slipped.
Exactly. A seam ripper, however, is architecturally designed for this exact physical scenario. It features a microscopic, finely tapered metal point that curves upward into a small, recessed cutting blade.
So it's tiny enough to just glide into the hair?
Right. Because the point is so fine, it can slide effortlessly underneath the tightly bound hair, relieving the tension without requiring downward force. Once the point is under the hair, you simply push forward. The hair slides up the curve and directly into the recessed razor blades, slicing cleanly.
That is so smart.
You can run a seam ripper right down the horizontal channel of the roller brush in one smooth motion. It lifts and severs the debris with absolute precision, and because the blade is recessed, there is zero risk of slicing the surrounding bristles.
It's the Chinese finger trap analogy that really makes it click. You can't use brute force on tension. You need precision to slip underneath it. Speaking of structural challenges, the video then tackles what I consider the most egregious design flaw in modern upright vacuums.
Oh, let me guess. The permanent suction tube.
Yes. On almost every model, the primary suction tube, the short corrugated hose that connects the floor base to the main debris canister, is permanently riveted or glued to the machine. You can't unclip it to soak it in the bathtub, and you can't easily push a towel through it.
That permanent tube is the ultimate bottleneck of the entire airflow system. Because it sits at the immediate point of entry, it is the exact location where large debris, clumps of pet hair, and sticky dirt are most likely to lodge and begin forming a blockage.
The video host actually jokes about the sheer desperation we've all felt, trying to aggressively shove a straightened metal wire coat hanger down that tube to clear a clog, which, let's be honest, usually just results in a coat hanger getting permanently wedged inside the vacuum.
We've all been there.
But then he reveals a truly brilliant cross-purpose tool, a flexible dryer vent cleaner.
Using a rigid wire hanger inside a corrugated tube is a recipe for puncturing the plastic. The dryer vent cleaner solves the geometric problem perfectly.
He takes this 3-foot-long, highly flexible nylon brush, the exact kind you buy at a hardware store, to sneak deep into the lint trap of your clothes dryer, and he feeds it directly into that permanently attached vacuum tube.
It's perfect because it bends.
Right, because the rod is bendable, it smoothly navigates the sharp 90-degree internal curves of the vacuum base. And because the bristles are densely packed around the entire circumference of the brush, it aggressively scrubs the complete inner wall of the tube. He pushes it in one side, and you watch it pop out the other end, pushing out an astonishing clump of impacted dust and hair.
The science of why this restores performance so drastically comes back to the fluid dynamics of air. When air travels through a smooth tube, it moves in what is called laminar flow. It's highly efficient and fast.
Laminar flow, okay.
However, if even a small clump of hair or a sticky piece of candy gets stuck to the wall of that permanent tube, it disrupts the laminar flow. It creates localized turbulence, tiny chaotic vortices of air that drastically increase drag.
So the air gets tripped up, essentially.
Exactly. That drag exponentially reduces the suction power at the floor nozzle. By using the flexible dryer brush to mechanically scour the inner walls of that permanent tube, you eliminate the turbulence causing obstructions. You instantly restore the laminar flow, which translates to a massive, immediately noticeable increase in the machine's sweeping power.
It's incredibly satisfying to watch a massive systemic problem get solved with a $5 brush. So at this stage in the teardown, the heavy lifting is complete. The permanent bottlenecks are cleared, the roller is free of tension-wrapped hair, the plastic accessories have been fully degreased in their bath, and everything has been thoroughly rinsed with clean water.
It feels like you're done, right?
Exactly. A rational person might look at these sparkling clean parts and immediately start snapping them back together. But the video issues its most severe apocalyptic warning right here. Reassembling the machine prematurely is the ultimate rookie mistake, and it will unleash a nightmare scenario in your home.
This raises an important question. What is the inevitable consequence of combining total darkness, deeply enclosed spaces, and residual moisture?
You accidentally build a highly efficient incubator for microscopic fungi.
Yep, a mold trap.
The host explicitly warns that if you reassemble the vacuum, and specifically if you reinstall the HEPA or foam filter, while it possesses even a fraction of dampness, a musty, rotting mold smell will permanently hijack your appliance.
Hijack is the scientifically appropriate term. We discussed earlier how a vacuum operates as an air circulation machine. The filter is the final gatekeeper in that system. Vacuum filters are engineered with incredibly dense materials, layered paper pleats, thick foam, or interwoven fiberglass, designed to capture particles as small as 0.3 microns.
Super, super dense.
Right. And because of that microscopic density, these materials hold on to water with extreme stubbornness through capillary action. If you place a filter that is even slightly damp at its core back into the airtight, dark housing of the machine, you are creating an ideal microclimate.
That sounds ominous.
It is. The organic dust that inevitably hits that filter provides a food source. The trapped moisture provides hydration. The enclosed plastic housing provides a dark, temperature-stable environment. Mold and mildew spores, which are omnipresent in the air of every home, will immediately colonize the damp fibers of the filter.
And once that happens, you can't just rinse it out again, right?
Correct. Fungi don't just sit on the surface. They grow root-like structures called mycelium deep into the microscopic pores of the filter material. Once colonized, every single time you activate the vacuum's motor, high-velocity air will strip the volatile organic compounds, the foul-smelling gases produced by the mold's metabolism, and blast them directly into your living room.
Ugh, the smell of a damp, rotting basement.
You will have effectively manufactured a machine designed to distribute that exact smell.
The ultimate betrayal. You dedicate your Saturday afternoon to deep cleaning this machine, and because you were impatient, you've permanently ruined the air quality of your home.
It's a harsh lesson.
To completely prevent this biological disaster, the source material institutes an absolutely strict, non-negotiable protocol, the 24 to 48-hour rule. First, he stresses that you must rinse the dirty filter under running water until the water runs completely, crystal clear. And then, it must sit in a well-ventilated area to air dry for a minimum of 24 to 48 hours. He looks right at the camera and says, 100% dry is non-negotiable.
It requires extreme discipline, but it accounts for the physics of evaporation. While the exterior surface of a dense foam filter might feel dry to the touch after 6 hours, the dense interior core remains saturated. Only time and ambient airflow can extract that deep internal moisture.
But the host of the video is highly practical. He recognizes that commanding a busy family to cease all vacuuming operations for 2 straight days is an unreasonable demand. Kids track in mud, dogs knock over potted plants, life doesn't pause for a drying cycle.
You can't just put your house on hold.
To solve this, he drops what I consider the absolute smartest, most functional pro tip of the entire deep dive. Maintain a secondary identical backup filter in your utility closet.
It's an exercise in removing the friction from necessary maintenance. We operate on the path of least resistance. If maintaining an appliance requires us to inconvenience our daily lives, we simply will abandon the maintenance protocol.
Exactly. It's so wildly simple, but it solves the entire behavioral problem. You purchase 1 extra factory filter. When Saturday rolls around and it's time to wash the dirty biofilm-coated filter, you pull it out, scrub it, and set it on the windowsill for its mandatory 2-day drying vacation.
Out of sight, out of mind while it dries.
Then you instantly slot the perfectly dry, clean backup filter directly into the machine. You are never left vulnerable without a functioning vacuum for a weekend. You completely eliminate the temptation to rush the drying process and spring the mold trap, and your machine always operates with maximum airflow.
And airflow is everything.
He points out that a choked filter is the primary culprit for loss of suction and terrible odors, so having a clean replacement ready to hot swap is the linchpin to a fresh house.
It completely insulates the user from the biological risks while maintaining 100% operational uptime for the tool.
So we fast forward 48 hours in YouTube time. The washed components are chemically dry. It is finally time for the reassembly phase. But a true professional doesn't just blindly snap plastic tabs back together. The video host uses the reassembly process as a critical diagnostic inspection, specifically focusing on the drive belt before he reinstalls the newly freed roller brush.
Which is absolutely essential because the drive belt is subjected to more kinetic stress than any other component in the machine's architecture.
He examines the rubber loop under a bright light, looking for micro tears, fraying edges, or signs that the rubber has permanently stretched out of shape. He advises that if you see any structural compromise whatsoever, you must replace the belt immediately before sealing the base plate.
A broken belt mid-vacuum is the worst.
His build passes the inspection, so he proceeds. He gives a very specific close-up tutorial on how to snake the rubber belt through the internal housing, looping it over the metal motor shaft. He emphasizes a highly specific geometric detail. You have to ensure that the square plastic end caps of the roller brush slide down and seat perfectly flush into the receiving grooves on the base of the machine.
That alignment is mathematically critical. A vacuum belt operates under immense tensile stress, transferring rotational torque from a high-speed electric motor to a heavy, carpet-beating cylinder.
So there's a lot of force at play.
A tremendous amount. If those square end caps are even slightly misaligned in their grooves, the roller brush sits at a microscopic angle. This creates asymmetrical tension across the width of the rubber belt.
And what happens when you turn it on like that?
The moment you power up the 3000 RPM motor, that asymmetrical tension will either instantly snap the rubber, or it will cause the belt to track sideways, violently rubbing against the plastic housing until it melts from friction. Proper seating ensures symmetrical torque distribution.
Precision is everything. And recognizing that every single vacuum brand, from Shark to Dyson to Bissell, uses a slightly different, often confusing configuration of belts, screws, and weirdly shaped wheel trays, the host drops a beautifully modern piece of advice. Before you unscrew a single piece of plastic, take out your smartphone and snap 3 or 4 clear, well-lit photos of how the belts and pieces are currently arranged.
Oh, that is so necessary. Human spatial memory is notoriously fallible, especially when dealing with complex, interlocking mechanical systems that we only look at once every 6 months.
You always tell yourself, I'll remember exactly how this spring-loaded bracket fits in. And then 45 minutes later, you're staring at a piece of plastic that looks like it belongs on an alien spacecraft, totally baffled.
We've all been there with the leftover mystery screw.
A 5-second photo acts as a flawless architectural blueprint, saving you an hour of frustrating puzzle solving. Now, as the final pieces lock into place and the machine looks structurally revitalized, the video addresses one final, slightly melancholic reality check. Even after the meticulous deconstruction, the outdoor leaf blowing, the Dawn power wash degreasing, and the warm bath, the clear plastic canister that holds the dirt might still look fundamentally cloudy or foggy.
It's a prevalent aesthetic phenomenon with bagless vacuums, and it frequently causes users to assume their cleaning chemicals have failed or that a hidden layer of grease remains.
But the video host explains the science behind the fog, and it's actually fascinating. He reassures the viewer that the fogginess is not residual dirt, it's structural damage. I know we briefly touched on centrifugal force earlier, but can you break down the exact physics of why the dirt permanently fogs the plastic?
Yeah, it traces back to the fundamental engineering shift in modern vacuums, popularized by James Dyson's adaptation of industrial sawmill cyclonic separators. In a bagless vacuum, the motor pulls air and debris into the clear canister at extreme velocities.
Not just blowing into a bag anymore.
Right. Instead of forcing the air straight through a bag, the canister is shaped to force the air into a violent, high-speed vortex, a literal cyclone inside the plastic chamber. The physics of centrifugal force dictate that the heavier particles, sand, rocks, hard dirt, are flung outward, away from the center of the vortex, violently impacting the interior walls of the canister so they fall to the bottom.
So it's a high-speed dirt tornado inside a plastic cup.
Precisely. And the plastic used for these canisters is typically a form of polycarbonate. While shatter-resistant, polycarbonate ranks relatively low on the Mohs scale of mineral hardness.
But sand is hard.
Extremely hard. The sand and silicates you vacuum off your floor rank significantly higher on that hardness scale. Therefore, every single time you vacuum, millions of microscopic grains of sand are accelerated to high speeds and slammed into the polycarbonate walls. It creates an aggressive sandblasting effect.
Oh, wow. So it's physically wearing away the plastic.
Over months of use, this high-velocity impact creates millions of microscopic fractures and scratches in the surface of the plastic. Light can no longer pass through cleanly. It refracts off the microscopic scratches, creating a frosted, opaque appearance. The canister is hygienically, chemically sterile after your wash, but the plastic has been physically, permanently abraded by the very dirt it was designed to capture.
It's essentially the battle scars of a hardworking piece of machinery. The frost is a testament to how much sand it has successfully removed from your carpets. And that brings us to the ultimate payoff of this entire deep dive.
The moment of truth.
Yes, the host steps back, and the fully reassembled Hoover looks incredible. The flexible hose is entirely clear of that decomposing biofilm. The roller brush spins freely without the tension of 1,000 tightly wrapped hairs. The internal airflow pathways are unblocked, and the filters are pristine and dry. When he hits the power switch for the final test, the transformation isn't just visual. The machine sounds drastically different. It's a smooth, high-pitched whine instead of a struggling low growl. It smells entirely neutral. Most importantly, the massive suction power at the floor nozzle has been entirely restored to factory levels.
That auditory change is the sound of mechanical relief. The true value of this exhaustive maintenance protocol extends far beyond banishing a foul odor. By systematically eliminating the structural friction, the hair binding the high-speed metal bearings, the compacted dust choking the permanent airways, the dense biological matter restricting the HEPA filters, you're dramatically reducing the electrical and thermal strain on the vacuum's primary motor.
Which translates directly to preserving your bank account. The host concludes the video with a rather profound personal philosophy. He notes that he was taught from a young age to deeply respect and maintain the tools he owns.
That's a lost art, really.
It is. He acknowledges the irony that spending 2 hours deep cleaning a vacuum might feel slightly absurd, considering the very next time you push it across the carpet, it's going to get coated in dust again. But he argues that executing this maintenance is the only way to ensure the engineering survives. It means you don't have to walk into a big box store every 18 months and drop $400 on a brand new machine simply because your old one suffocated to death on its own trapped debris.
It represents a fundamental shift in how we interact with our household infrastructure. It moves us away from a culture of disposable convenience and returns us to an appreciation for mechanical durability. An investment of time yields exponential dividends and sustained performance in long-term financial savings.
It fundamentally changes your relationship with the objects you rely on. It elevates a simple plastic appliance into a piece of maintained machinery. And it leaves me to an incredibly provocative thought that I want to leave you, the listener, with today.
Okay, lay it on me.
If the primary machine we trust to eradicate dirt from our living rooms can so easily, quietly transform into a secret, rotting distributor of the exact filth it's supposed to eliminate, what other essential cleaning tools in your home are currently hiding a similar secret?
Ooh, that is the exact critical lens we should apply to our entire environment. Consider the cellular structure of your kitchen sponges, the dark, damp interior plumbing of your automated dishwasher, or the thick rubber gasket sealing the door of your front-loading washing machine.
Oh, that rubber gasket is always suspect.
Are these devices genuinely erasing the biological mess from your life, or are they currently trapped in their own invisible, foul-smelling infinity loop of dirt?
Oh, that is a deeply terrifying and highly motivating realization. I am going to be aggressively side-eyeing the interior of my dishwasher the moment I get home tonight.
Right.
Before we wrap up, we want to remind you one final time. If you appreciate the profound satisfaction of a truly deep clean, and you want to ensure your environment is as pristine and well-maintained as your newly restored vacuum cleaner, don't forget to visit Keendick Carpet Cleaning on Google. They are the absolute experts you need to elevate your floor care to the ultimate professional level.
Mastering the maintenance of your personal tools is the crucial first step. Partnering with dedicated professionals ensures the longevity of your entire home.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening to the How to Clean Your Vacuum Like a Pro No More Stinky Smell podcast.